Welcome to Peter and Phil's Courageous Conversations, a podcast addressing race relations and social issues in hopes that you'll be inspired to do the same. Now, let's begin our conversation with your hosts, Dr. Peter Weinstein and Dr. Philip Nelson.
Hello, and welcome back to Courageous Conversations. I'm Dr. Peter Weinstein, and I want to give thanks to my partner, Dr. Philip Nelson.
Hello, everyone. This is Phil Nelson, and to give you a reference of our timestamp, we're recording this 3 days before Thanksgiving. And Peter, I want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. What do you plan? What are your plans, and how do you feel about this Thanksgiving? What do you have to celebrate?
Well, I have to thank first, before I get into my plans, I want to thank Nationwide for supporting us. So I'm giving them thanks. And I want to give thanks to Nicole for editing us to sound better. If she could do plastic surgery, she could even make us look better. So I want to thank that. And
That's a tall order.
yeah, I know. Well, maybe she can get some of the gray hair out. So Thanksgiving. We're actually going to some friend's house for dinner. Bonnie Lutz, you probably may know Bonnie. She's an attorney who helps protect veterinarians in state board and malpractice issues. And there'll be some other veterinarians there and colleagues and friends. And it's nice because my kids routinely are not around. They go with their mom for Thanksgiving elsewhere. And so Sharon and I either have a vegetarian Thanksgiving at home, or over the last few years, we've been graciously invited to Bonnie's house for Thanksgiving and just kind of hang out with other people and have somebody do all the cooking and cleaning. And what about yourself? Are you going to barbecue a turkey, a brisket, or a ham, or what do you got planned?
No, we usually have a traditional smoked and roasted turkey. We do both, or we've done both, because up until this year, we've had an extended family celebration. I think we may have but now it's just, we're empty nesters, my wife and I, but I think my daughter and her two children, and two of my grandchildren, may actually celebrate with us since they're close. Live close here in California. But so I have the same reasons to be thankful. I have, the fact that I still have my mother. My wife still has her mother. We still have a close family, with the usual periods of not talking to each other for stupid reasons, which makes everybody family. Sometimes I wonder which group has it worse. Your relatives being able to talk to each other, as opposed to the nation being able to talk to each other. And I've come out to the fact that it's probably about the same, which maybe we should be thankful for, because we definitely get a lot of practice in making through it. I'm thankful for my health, and I'm thankful for the fact that I can have this podcast with you and to exchange views that are from time to time contrary in nature, and learn about other perspectives on issues of concern or issues that I should know about.
Well, I think it's important that, in spite of what may be going on around us and issues that we may or may not agree with, that we should find some time to share appreciation and give thanks to friends, family, colleagues, coworkers, and even to some people who may share different opinions, because I think we can learn how to be better communicators by understanding other people's perspectives. So, before in the pre-call, you were talking about an experience you had recently that was a little bit disconcerting in the topicality of it, if that's the right word. But
I've never heard that word before. I want to write that one down.
Yeah, I make things up just because I can.
Topicality.
Topicality. I think as you get older, you just make up words, but I'll just blame it on age. But I think it's important that, we have the ability to look somebody who we disagree with in the face and say, Phil, thanks for sharing your opinion.
Yeah, well, that's not usually how it goes, but that usually occurs at the end of the conversation, like you said. However, without that type of interest, without that type of tolerance, we would never be able to work through our problems.
Right. By the way, topicality is a real word.
Oh, great.
It's the quality of being of interest at the present time or of relating to things that are happening at present. So it's topical.
Eh,
So I'm not making up words, but I am using them. But you're absolutely correct. It's just it does come at the end of a conversation. If it came at the beginning of a conversation, you wouldn't be able to. It's like, well, I appreciate your opinion. I'm going to go to the bathroom.
By the way, that reminds me of something. So I think I'm going to the bathroom now.
Oh, but I think it's important. I mean, you and I both travel, and it was it's fun to be a fly on the wall sometimes and listen to what people have to say and grit your teeth sometimes, grin and bear it at other times. But I think the fact is that we do live in a democracy, little d, that we have had our chance to share our opinions, whether we agree with them or not, and that we can sit here and have this conversation. You and I can have a conversation of this nature where we may or may not agree with 50% of the American population, although I believe it's 49.8% of the American population, without fear, hopefully, of repercussions. And I think the fact that we have the ability to have freedom of speech and the ability to share our thoughts is a reason to give thanks as well.
Well, I definitely think that at the moment, I can genuinely give thanks for living in what some have called the greatest country in the world. At the moment, I uh, give thanks that we have, to the best of our ability, just had an election where we followed the principles of democracy with a little d. And I hope that that goodwill is carried further. And however, regardless of what is about to transpire or what is to be determined in our future directions, I think that we should be thankful for the infrastructure that we have, governmental infrastructure that we have to help establish the will of the people as we move forward. I do believe that, or I would like to believe that I heard two sides during this past election period. I heard two sides that were fighting for this country. I was somewhat disappointed and amazed at how divergent those views were of what democracy might be. But at least we can be thankful that the battle was in the ballot box and not through ballots in the Capitol. And we still have to wait until the inauguration to make sure that that transition of power occurs as peacefully as we have had for the last 20 years, except for one date, one time. But be that as it may, right now, I just want to focus on the benefits that we enjoy and, the support that we have, both personally as well as from our society.
Yeah, we got to thank our 15 listeners. We forgot to thank them. And we would thank you even more if you'd invite 15 of your friends.
Absolutely. But we definitely
We want to just thank the fact that people will have the ability to have these conversations. And whether it's about social issues, whether in our world it's about veterinary profession, I mean, we can more often than not have a cordial, courageous conversation that ends up with two people agreeing to disagree, but still being friends. And I think that we have to take those thoughts into consideration because, there's always going to be a winner and a loser in most competitions. You can't have a tie when it comes to a political situation. You can't have a tie when it comes to the end of a football game any longer, or a baseball game, or a hockey game, or a basketball game. So there's always going to be a winner and a loser. It's really whether we can be thankful that we are, can you use the term sore winners? No, that's probably not right, but that you accept the outcome. And so, I think as you noted, we're thankful that the process went through the way it's supposed to, quote unquote, go through in a peaceful fashion. And we can only hope that the outcome will be for the benefit of the American people.
And having said that, part of uh, of that struggle is the acceptance of the role of agitator, the acceptance of the role, of the role of being the checks and balance. The real check and balance is in the voting group. And when I say that, I don't mean winners or losers. I mean the different perspectives of the voters. And just because there may be a party that takes control from time to time, uh, the opposite party has a role of checking and balancing the power exerted by that, and we all get a chance to practice those roles. And for me, that will be my challenge for at least the next 4 years, uh, where it is clear that there will be a change in direction, but I don't accept that there's a mandate for any of that or a race in any direction. And it is up to all voters to check the speed and the ground is going to be covered in any direction. For me, the mantra does not change. I am not going back. And some things I will challenge vociferously, but that is the role, that is part of a vibrant democracy.
So when we started these podcasts 4.5 years ago or so, I was commenting that we were going backwards in time. And, you mentioned some of the forward progress. So one of the things that you, more specifically, more so than I, can give thanks for is just the ability to easily, quote unquote, relatively easy vote. Just the fact that you can fill out a ballot, mail it in, or drop it in a box is a lot different than 60 years ago when it came down to the elections in 1964. Correct me if I'm wrong. So there's a reason to give thanks to just for you to even have a voice in the system, isn't there?
Well, once again, you made a blanket statement that does not apply to every region of the country.
Correct. But I'm talking about you from your perspective.
Well, I know, I understand, but from my perspective, the answer is not yes. For me personally, it is yes, because I happen to live in the state of California,
Right.
right? But there are states that even today are closing polls in neighborhoods to force certain communities to have to travel further in order to vote. There are states that do not have mail-in voting, and there are states that are throwing people off the rolls or who even tried to throw people off the roll for this election until the last minute when the judiciary checked that move and prevented it. So again, what I when I challenged your statement about going backwards, I didn't mean to suggest that con- there weren't challenges to make steps backwards. Or, I just wanted to say that the cumulative ebb of waves was forward. But when we start pointing out certain things or certain retreats, both can be true. Let's just put it that way.
So maybe we could talk about some things we would hope to give thanks for in the future, like more open ability to vote, less barriers put up to those people who want to share their voice in the voting process. Maybe I'd love to give thanks for a narrowing of the gap that exists currently within the United States between people's differences of opinion. I mean, they're just, and we've talked about this over time, that there is such a differentiator in many cases between opinions on different sides of the spectrum. I can give thanks if we can start to bring that closer together. Um, and I would suggest that one of the things I'd love to give thanks for in the future is a greater respect that people have for one another.
Well, if I were in this vein of discussion, I would be happy I desire to be able to be thankful for the recognition that a citizen can vote easily, that regardless of where that citizen lived or when that citizen became a citizen, whether that citizen was a citizen at birth or through naturalization. That once they are a citizen, they lose the moniker of immigrant, or they lose the moniker of minority, or they lose the moniker of unwanted, and that they be allowed what is their right, which is the ability to vote by any legal means necessary. My secondary wish to be able to be thankful for, my secondary wish for thankfulness would be that the propaganda that sets up the distrust of voting be diminished. That there is no more organized promotion that aliens or non-citizens are voting, or that significant numbers of votes are coming from unregistered voters, that our civil servants are applauded for the work that they do, and that we hold them accountable for following statutes and obligations. And once we do, we support them.
Yeah, I would give thanks to all of those things and many, many others because we can do so. And maybe you and I are very fortunate in our current status in life. Maybe that's a demographic status, maybe it's a financial status, that we can look and help others and that we can give back to others. And I think it's important to our listeners to understand that right now, there's a lot of people who need your help. And it's a good time of year between now and the end of the year to find others and to thank them and to show appreciation. And whether it is a small thing like somebody holding a door for you or something larger, I think it's important that especially in a time and a place as we are right now, that we find and make the time to help others, and that we do it just out of the graciousness of our heart. We're not expecting anything more in return. But I think now more than ever, and especially in an environment that is so disrupted and uncertain, that now more than ever is a time to help others in small ways. And it's those small ways that can make a big difference. And so I encourage everybody to find ways to show gratitude to those people around them.
And I want to thank you for that, for reminding me to thank the American people for being American and for being supportive of other Americans, politics aside. The divisiveness that we seem to portray in politics is strangely discordant with the behavior of strangers in the grocery store, at a service station, while shopping, in an elevator, in any state, at the airport, bus terminal, in line at the bank. It is amazing how states have these political histories and these political descriptions. And yet, if there's one thing that is universal in this nation, people tend to treat each other the same. It's not until you know who I voted for that I become a martyr either way.
You know, Phil, and we can kind of wrap around this. People aren't red. People aren't blue. People are people. And their political meanings should not be a reason to not respect them or appreciate them. So, all in all, the democracy, although not perfect, tends to work okay. And let's take the next 6 weeks or so and kind of shrink those differences and find more commonalities than differences as we come across people in whatever path we may cross with.
I totally agree. I just want to remind everyone that, I am thankful that we have accepted the outcome of the election, period. But I am concerned that that outcome has been inflated. On a vote basis, 45 million people made the difference. That is not an overwhelming mandate in any direction. And it shows that we are pretty much split. And so because of that, it is important that if we are going to manage this nation as a nation, then we have to make sure that we consider both halves of the nation.
Just as we need to consider both halves of the podcast. And so I think I can give thanks that we were able to kind of have an opportunity to thank everybody and to share our feelings at this time of year. It's interesting that we choose 1 week or 1 day out of 365 or 366 days to give thanks, when maybe what we really need to be doing is giving thanks every day in some way, shape, or form. So, Phil, thank you.
And thank you, Peter. Looking forward to our next conversation. But whatever it takes to force us to look at the good, to be appreciative, we should be thankful for that as well.
So thank you to our 15 listeners. If you each pick 15 friends, we'll have 225 listeners. In the meantime, also thank you to Nationwide, and thank you to Nicole, and thank you to the American people for allowing democracy to be the tenor under which we operate. Final word, Bill?
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. And if we don't get back to you before Christmas, Merry Christmas as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us for another courageous conversation. Be sure to follow us and check back next week for more.